What's up? I'd like to welcome everybody once again to the All the Way Around show. I'm your host, Big Al 360, along with my co-host,
Nick the Cat.
And we have the legend with us. Incredible. We have an incredible guest with us, Mr. Christopher Schwartz.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. This is an honor for you to be on the show.
Even though I was like 4 days late getting here.
You was on time.
You were on time. You were still on time.
This was scheduled to take place back in the late 50s, and we're just getting to it now. No, actually, folks, I was late today, and they're being very nice, but and I'm usually probably one of the most punctual people you ever meet in this business, and it was completely unforgivable that I was late, but in my defense, it wasn't my fault. It was that person over there who's moving the records around. So anyhow,
you're here,
but I'm here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, are you originally from Philadelphia?
I'm from Devon, Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania,
which is like the Welsh settled the what we call the main line, which is from Philadelphia out to Malvern, and so it was an area where back in the 1700s, 1800s, a lot of the merchants like had summer homes out there, right? And then it just became, people just started moving there, and but it's got a really interesting history. But it's mainly like it was like more of like a farm type of community, coming up, and now it's just like anything else. It's all houses and everything. But I had my childhood. We had a lot of open fields and places to hike and stuff like that. But it's all houses now. But I grew up working on farms and stuff.
Okay.
Which is an unlikely background for somebody who does what I do.
And then you left home and you went in the Navy, correct?
Yeah, I joined the Navy when I was 17. And prior to that, I had one of the guys I grew up with was a drummer, and I played guitar. I was never good enough to play in any of the bands that he was in, but we were good friends, best friends actually. And so when I joined the service, he basically got into like electronic music. Now we were both electronic music fans. We listened to Kraftwerk, Walter Carlos, now Wendy Carlos, Tangerine Dream, stuff like that. But when I was in the service, we were both Zappa fans too.
That's Frank.
Yeah, Frank Zappa.
Frank Zappa.
Yeah, Frank Zappa went to your school, correct?
No. That's just like some dumb shit I've had on my Facebook. But basically, so now I'm in the service, right? So I'm like really, really into anything that had odd time signatures. Herbie Hancock, Return to Forever. All like progressive and like fusion and everything like that. And when I get out, Jeff had really like gone into the electronic thing like full tilt. So
this is Jeff.
Yeah,
Jeff Coulter.
Jeff Coulter. You remember Jeff?
Yes, I remember Jeff.
Jeff was head of he administrated all the RuffHouse, the whole label. Yeah. He was like
I remember
administrative.
Jeff.
He was like in charge of it.
Great guy.
Yeah, great guy. And so I come home and he has like 12 keyboards, all like interlocked with sequencers and all that stuff, and so I loved it, so we started making music together, and then we liked the same stuff, all this like Germanic, like electronic music, and then we read an article that the Roland Corporation was coming out with this new programmable drum machine. Now, I mean, I told the story a million times, but I'll just do an abbreviated version of it now. Back then in 1980, right, 81, up till then, there were no programmable drum machines.
And you were the first one to have an 808,
I think in Philadelphia, yeah, because we got one when it was still a prototype, right? Okay. Well, I say a prototype. It was a demo model that went around to the stores before you could order it, right? But we found out about it like months before, and it was like, holy shit, they're coming out for a programmable drum machine. And because up till then, drum machines were like a compu rhythm by Roland. It's just like a box, and you got the samba, so it was really cool. And then what we had discovered when we bought it home, got out of the box, is that each instrument on the machine, on the 808, had its own output, which was like, what? Right? That means like, you know, because we used to see Kraftwerk live. You go see Kraftwerk, and it's like, you know, they open up with the song Numbers, like, and it's, you know, Ich, Me, Sun, She, and like the vocoder and everything. And it's so big and bombastic. The kick drum, and like, it was all like, and it was like, how can they do that and make it the way it is and everything. And when I saw the outputs on the 808, it's like, oh, okay. It's like each instrument has its own out, like the way you can mic a drum set, right? Yeah. But what's even cooler about this, there's no microphones involved, so you can really, really manipulate the signal, right? Yep. So it was just, you know, it was a cool time, and so we did that. We played in a bunch of bands, and I started doing studio production up at Broad and Columbia at Frank Virtue Studio, and we had like a little commercial dance group with Jeff and I play keyboards and guitar, and there was a girl, Robin.
What was the name of the group?
We had a couple of them. We were the Ultronics, like Ultronic Brewing, like we were Tangent, but we did a gig at the Gallery Mall, which was a kind of like a weird scene at the time for us to do that. But we got approached by, you know, you got to remember, this is like early '81, right? And we were approached by a hip hop group, and we went up. I brought them we made a demo, and I basically got it into a studio, and the studio was this guy Frank Virtue I told you about earlier, and we did some records. The guy formed a label with a guy named Vince DeRosa, who had he was a pressing plant in New Jersey, and he pressed up everybody's records, man. Sleeping Bag, Tommy Boy, Next Plateau, Fresh, Cutting Records, yeah, all those labels. And so the artist in this group was a guy named Kid Fresh.
Kid Fresh.
You would know him as Mike Elliott. His real name is Clinton Shirley.
Oh wow!
But he changed it to Mike Elliott. Right. So
sounds better.
Yeah, it does. I don't blame him. You know. So anywho, so then you know we started. I was managing Schoolie, and then you know what happened from there. So
yeah, that was that. So what made you when you started Schoolie? What made you choose hip hop?
Well, I was a big R&B fan, and
some of the groups you listened to.
Yeah, but you know, I listened to all the Philly stuff.
Okay. Philly Sound.
Sound of Philadelphia. You know, when I was in the Navy, the biggest record. I remember when I joined. I was in my school down in Memphis. The biggest songs on the radio at the time was like Earth, Wind, and Fire. Right. Okay. Earth, Wind, and Fire was so big. It was massive. Like it was like every other song was an Earth, Wind, and Fire song because they had that one record. It was just like, and it. But the thing is that the hip hop. The reason that we took to it is because if you listen to Kraftwerk, right, listen to Numbers and listen to songs like Trans Europe Express and everything. Well, these kids asked us to do beats for them at the Gallery Mall, so we went to do beats for them, and it was like. I knew how to program an 808, and it was like, and it was awesome because it was so. I like the processes was so expedited. You know what I mean? Because you're doing this beat and everything, and you know, like watching kids, you know, scratching it like on turntables and stuff like that. It was crazy unique to us, you know. And here's the thing: it wasn't that. Hip hop was still like a niche kind of thing in 1981. Yeah. I was talking with Amir on Questlove Supreme, and he had brought up something that was really interesting. In 1981, there was not enough hip-hop that was commercial that you could, like, literally program radio with. There wasn't enough to do it. You had people doing mix shows, but they mixed it with dance and everything like that, and it was a mix show, right? As a DJ, you're going to chop it up, and you're going to have all these different elements in there. But it was like, you know... like that Lady B had a show on WHAT and everything, but if you could not do like a 3-hour show of hip hop music because there just wasn't enough of it, right? Mm-hmm. So hip hop was still in its very embryonic stages. It was growing as a genre, and I liked the fact that it was so new, so unique, and it was just like there was no rules to it, you know. And as to talk quote Joey Nicolo, we were making it up as we went along, you know.
Now Joey Nicolo, who is that?
Joe Nicolo was my partner in RuffHouse.
Okay.
He is probably, you know, when it comes to like especially mixing hip hop, right? Throughout the 80s and better part of the 90s, there were 3 people. Like if my life depended on a mix, right?
Okay.
The people I would choose would be either Rick Rubin, Rick Rubin, like Arthur Baker,
Or
and
Joe.
Joe Nicolo.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing is about Joe, it's funny because Joe's whole thing was an interesting background. First off, Joe is I'm partners now with Joe's twin brother Phil, and Phil is a Grammy-winning producer, right?
Yep.
He was also one of the 13 people in charge of the Grammys for a better part of 20 years, right? So, you know, and he's worked with everybody, you know, Aerosmith, Bon Jovi, you know, Lauryn Hill, and
Phil's worked
everything.
with
Yeah, they're both.
everybody.
Look, here's the thing, man. The Nicolo brothers, they're dope because when you look at this place, right? Phil built this place.
What is this place? Where are we at right now?
We are at the Studio 4 vinyl pressing facility in Nottingham, Pennsylvania, and you know, it's one thing, like, you know, what Phil calls having an inner ear, to, you know, knowing something that sounds good, because we're talking about how sometimes, like, you know, you have a manager, you have a producer, and you have people involved in a project. They go in and they pay a studio to record something, right? And they everybody listens to it. It gets mixed. They spend hours on it, right? And it's done. And then they bring it to somebody like me, and I listen to it, and I'm hearing somebody sing, and you know, good singer, but then I'm hearing parts where they're singing out of key, right? And I'm like, am I the only one hearing this? Like you guys sat in a studio
And
with
no
this
one brought this to
with
your
your
attention.
music, with
Yeah.
the music playing on probably, like, you know, Westlake monitors or something, you know, way, and you're hearing this, and you can't tell that she is singing out of key on this part of the song.
Do you think they can't tell, or you think they don't care?
They just let it fly.
I think they don't know. I think they must sense that, because I'll tell you, when something's out of key, it makes my sphincter tighten up. You know, I can't deal with shit that's out of key, right? So it's like, I think it's like they hear it, but they think maybe, well, you know what, it gives the song personality. I hear that a lot, you know, like, yeah, somebody singing out of key gives it a lot of personality, right? But you know, Phil was it's about having that inner ear, right? So I think, like, people in the studio sometimes, they all hear it and they kind of know it, but especially in R&B, a lot of people, it's like, well, you know, you can kind of get away with it because it's R&B. It sounds like more, it's like coming from the soul, you know, and everything. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
buy that either.
I don't buy it either, right? So Phil, you know, but see, my point being about the Nicolos is that they both have a incredible technical acumen to begin with, right? They got the bedrock, the foundation. They know about sound reproduction, about, like, a sound critical environment, like all that stuff that goes, like the guys that came to do your microphones, right? Okay? Same thing, right? To have all that, but at the same time, to also know the actual music, right? And to know when something works and when it doesn't work. And you know, Joe always used to say that it's like, man, if it doesn't jump up, if it doesn't come out of the speaker and poke you in the eye, then what are you listening to? You know, and the thing is, like, I think one of the reasons that RuffHouse was so successful is because because we were song guys, right?
Yeah.
And that's what it really comes down to. You know, you can, you know, like, you know, it's funny. You never hear hip hop being referred to as, like, oh, it's a rap song. It's a hip hop song, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we call them tracks, right?
Yeah.
We call them tracks. But here's the reality to it. They're songs, because it's got to have the same, like, look, there is no rules, right? And the thing is, like, especially, like, you know, it's like, well, what part is the hook? Well, the part that's the hook is the part that made you remember that song.
Yeah.
I don't care. It could be the part in the intro. It could be something like it does. The hook is what makes you remember that song. But more important, it's that it's like, even though it's a hip hop track, it still has to tell an engaging story. It has to have a level of musicality to it, and it's got to have credibility. It's got to be, look, the best type of artist that, is that you want the artist who is self-contained, right? You want, for us at least, okay? We were never good at records where you had like 9 different producers, right, working on the track, right? We weren't any good at that. And, even till this day, I still really want to hear, I'm really more into singers that are singing songs that they wrote. Now, I know a lot of great songwriters like in Los Angeles and New York and Nashville and Atlanta and everything, and there's a lot of great singers that sing songs that weren't written by them, right? So I'm not taking away anything from anybody in that world, right? But for me personally, right, I want to hear a story, right? Mm-hmm. I want to hear a story told by the person who wrote it, right? Okay. And that's what I look for, right? We always we were never like, like I see the ads, looking for female singers to put together a group, looking for a female singer, looking for a young male singer like about to do, like looking for this. It's like, how do you know what you're looking for? Like if you're not. You know what I mean? Yeah, you can't invent something in your mind, right? And then go out and try and create it. Now, there are people like Simon Cowell, right? And you look at bands that these guys put together, like One Republic. Man, that shit is crazy fucking good. It's crazy good, man. I love it, right? But we weren't the people that are going to put together the boy band. We were just, that's not us. We could never fabricate a group, Matter of fact, I think we tried it once, We had a...
what group was that?
We had For Sure, which was an early R&B thing that we did.
There was another group that went out on tour with Mariah.
Remember that was Voice. It's funny. I was just telling somebody else about that tonight. Voices of Theory. They were Puerto Rican, right? So they were like Latino boys to men, so to speak. That was part and parcel to a mistake that a lot of people make that Be Real was talking about on the podcast that Nas has a podcast called The Bridge, and so Be Real and Sen were on that podcast, and Be Real was talking about when they first came to RuffHouse. We were talking about the fact that they were Latino, right? So he got these guys, and they got this whole thing, right? This whole genius thing. Well, yeah, but they're Latino, and we had the song that Sen did, Tres Equis, in Spanish, right? And it's like, well, yeah, we should put that song out. And their position was that, well, yeah, we're Latino, but we saw what happened with Kid Frost. We saw what happened with Mellow Man Ace, who's Sen's brother, right? Yeah. That these guys were marketed as Latino hip-hop when Latinos weren't embracing hip-hop, right? So how do you expect, regular mainstream audience? So same thing with Voices of Theory. I don't think anybody was quite ready for it, although they were exceptionally dope as vocalists, Yeah, so in a group that was really, really, really good. Oh my God, man. They had like amazing singer Tommy, was a group called No Question, and it was produced by these guys who were with me for a long time, Con Jamal and Vance DeBose. So Con and Vance started out with Kenny at Philly International, Kenny Campbell, and this group was signed to Philly International, so they did this record, right? So I come into work one morning, and I'm standing there, and Alicia and I forget who else were the two girls that worked in our reception at Ruffnation, Bryn Mawr. They had it playing on the radio, and I'm listening to the song, and it's just like, the sing-along was so great. It's like, I don't care what your mama say, what your father say, what your daughter, like, I'm gonna love you anyway, right? Yeah. It was a really great song, and it was basically about how, like, like there's always this situation, everybody's had it, whether it's in their family or somebody close to them, where you have a guy and a girl, and the families are just not into it, Yeah. So it's nothing, it's just that they don't like the match, right? And so it was a song about that, and I was really digging it because it was like, it sounded so like in that real traditional Philly sound. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
It was a good record.
yeah, so we did a deal. I did a deal with Kenny to put it out. So it was Philly International through Ruffnation through Warner Brothers, and we had put out this record, and we did a new version of the album. What I did not know though at the time was that I was. I don't know who within the management of the group who it was that told me. It said I thought I Didn't Care was a brand new song, right? So we took it to radio, and I had come to find out it had already kind of been out and around.
They re-released it early.
But nonetheless, the record sold, and it was doing really well. And right about that time, I had two things happening. I had Bobby Rosavilla. It was a Latino writer. Who did a lot of stuff. He worked at Jam and Lewis and everything. And his brother were both amazing musicians, writers, producers. And I was doing Bobby Rosaville as a solo project. Leela James was an artist that we had signed. And she was like amazing, right?
Chris, who didn't you work with?
Well, no, so let me tell you the story. So we had No Question, Leela James, and No Question, Leela James, and Tidewater Grain. Tidewater Grain was a rock band from Philly. The singer was actually a person who is probably one of the most critical people I've ever known in the major label stratosphere. And he actually is a guy who's a Grammy-winning producer, right? And he told me that he thought the lead singer for Tidewater Grain was one of the best vocalists he had heard in a long time in rock. So we had these great projects, and but the No Question was we had him out doing shows and everything, and that's when Time Warner or AOL did the merger with Time Warner, right? And the Time Warner stock at the time was trading at like 86%, right? $86 a share. And after the AOL merger, it plummeted, right? To like, I don't know, it was like $13 a share. And so now it's a whole restructuring of the company. So Gerald Levin, the great storied head of the company, left, and Alan Parsons, who was the CFO, took over. And they started next thing you know, the guy that I did our deal with, Russ Irett, was gone, right? So everything there was no head of the music company, right? So we're like, we got artists out on the road, we got records in production, we got all this stuff going on.
And there is no company.
And there's a company, it's just that nobody was going to spend money. Okay. And I was told by the head of marketing at Warner's, they said, Chris, the problem that you have right now, and he's saying us, when he means us, him and the other department heads, he goes, none of us want to spend any money because we don't want to have to account for ourselves when the new head, because they all want to hold on to their jobs, right? Yeah. So the company wasn't doing that well to begin with, so you may as well just not do anything because you're going to be damned if you do and damned if you don't, right? So, but the irony is that we also had a deal as part of the overall deal to put records out through the Alternative Distribution Alliance, which is Warner's, independent distribution. Way Sony had Red, Universal has Fontana, right? Then it became In Grooves and The Orchard and all that stuff. But at the time, so the records we did there, we did The Outsiders, right? And The Outsiders, man, what an awesome group. And I think we did a total of like 400,000 Outsiders records.
Wow.
With not doing a whole lot.
What's your biggest record?
My biggest record? Probably, I would have to say globally, the biggest record. It's going to be like a toss-up because I'd have to look at the thing. But I think the Fuji Score is probably the biggest. I know it's the biggest selling hip-hop album in the world.
How did Cypress Hill come in?
Oh, Cypress is... Well, here's the thing about Cypress Hill.
Cypress Hill
is easily considered the biggest... They're first off, they're the most successful Latin hip-hop group in history so far, right? They're also the first hip hop group to ever have two multi-platinum records
Okay.
at the same time. Like,
What were they? What was it?
well, the first record, Cypress Hill. So that record had already been out for like 9-10 months a year, and they were touring in Europe, right? It came out, it was dead in the water for like 7 months, right? It wasn't until the B-side of the third single, Chuck D and the Bomb Squad were doing the Juice soundtrack. And in the scene where Omar Epps is being chased by Tupac Shakur's character, like through the loft party and into
The
thing.
Juice.
Yeah. So I Could Just Kill a Man.
That was
right?
a big movie.
One
Yeah,
Could
that
Just
was
Kill
the-
a Man was
That was the B-side of the third single got in that movie. So we were at 36,000 copies in the marketplace for like 6 months, right? And we're tearing our hair out because this is a fucking great record, right? Like, you know when something's really good,
It
right?
was dope.
And it was so incredible. And we're just trying to understand, like, why isn't the world buying into what we're selling here? Because
You can't
we know,
understand.
yeah, so yeah, we couldn't understand. Here's something. Here was something we couldn't understand, right? So the song gets in the movie, and the next thing you know, we're selling 50,000 copies a week.
Wow.
That's big.
And so this
That's
shit
big
was
numbers.
The shit was blowing up, man, right? And but back to so Cypress Hill, they're the most successful Latin hip hop group in history so far. First Latin hip hop group to ever have multi-platinum records at the same time.
And that's what
on the chart.
RuffHouse?
Yeah, it's on RuffHouse, and
Okay.
and there were some other things. They were, obviously we know about, they're advocates for normal and legalization of weed, and Be Real is probably one of the most identifiable music artists to be associated with the cannabis culture. Yeah. And as you know, he has the Dr. Green Thumb's dispensaries. He's got 7 or 8 of them now, out in West Coast, and they just opened one up at the LA airport.
Wait a minute.
Yo.
Be Real got a dispensary at the LAX? Oh, wow.
Hello, my name is Dr.
Next-
Green Thumb.
That's our next trip.
Yeah. No, at the LAX. And here's the thing about their dispensaries. It's not just some little, like, place that you go into and it's like, they look like Apple stores.
Yeah.
They're like big, beautiful, like everything about it is like it's exquisite, man. Like the whole thing. It's like, he's got the he knows the shit, and he knows but it was like the presentation the stores are beautiful, like the floors and the everything. It's just really nice. And he's got 8 of them now, but they're going to be in every city throughout the United States. Probably,
That's
whenever.
dope.
Yeah. He's got there's a really big company behind him, and look, he's been really smart about it. You know what I mean? And it's a credible brand, right?
It's probably ass kicking weed too.
Yeah. But if you look at like, you know what, man? I remember when they first came to Philadelphia, and Joey and I went to pick them up at the airport, and they're getting off the plane, and they're carrying their luggage, and they're each Sen and the other they're carrying the turntables, right?
Yeah.
With all their luggage, and they're carrying off the plane, right? And it's like you look at from that point, right? Now their story obviously goes back a lot further, okay? But if you look at their whole thing and the whole the journey for them, and because I'll tell you have to see the documentary. The documentary was done by
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to check it out yet.
Incredible
Oh my God.
documentary.
Yeah,
dope.
Estevan Oriol, right? And Estevan was their road manager. He did everything. Their photographer, and he's got 30 years. He constantly had a camera. Constantly had cameras going everywhere, and there was so much everything they've done. They've been. I'd have to say they've probably been to. It's a toss up between them and Miss Lauryn Hill. It's that but I think Cypress Hill's probably been to more countries than any hip hop group. Look, here's the thing, man. Yeah. These guys have been touring for 30 years. And when I say tour, I'm not talking about a tour. Yeah. Like these guys go out and they do like 70 dates in Europe. They're there for months, and they do and that's all they do is they tour, make records, tour, make just like some of the big rock bands.
Kind constantly grinding.
Yeah, it's a constant thing, man. And they really have become like, you know, it's. I was talking with the manager, this woman named Deb Klein for Primary Wave when we started this project for this new record. Can you grab me a copy of the record? Yeah. So this is the record that was just released. It's
Cypress
it's
Hill.
called Back in Black, right? Now I'll tell you what's interesting about this record. This was probably, in terms of artwork and packaging, one of the most expensive endeavors we ever did, because the guy that designed this, man, it's like you see this stuff here.
It's intricate.
Yeah, it's called like a Pantone, right? Not Pantene, Pantone, and it's a you know, you have CMYK, like 4-color artwork, 4-color separation.
Okay.
There's 5 colors here, and the idea is that this kind of like glints, like you can see it, right? But what's really interesting about this is that I took a picture of this, right? The artwork before I ever actually had the actual album, right? I took a picture of it, and I was going to post it on our website, right?
Okay.
On ruffnation.com for, you know, because we sell vinyl and the bundles and everything. And I was like, because it was so dark, right? So I'm basically, you know, like adjusting it and everything. And I started to lighten it. And what I saw was that behind this, see this stuff here, like this, it's like it's metalwork, right? But it's really pronounced. Like on the back, it's all here on the back cover. You just can't see.
Yeah,
it.
you can see.
But the thing is,
is,
if you take a picture of that and you put it in the editing and stuff, and you mess with the filters and lighting, you see it. It comes out. So what they did was that they had that done and designed, and then they just obscured it.
Wow.
It's there. It's there. Yeah. It's just it's really cool. And then, you know, there's a really great picture of them on the inside cover, right? You know, it's and you know, at the time, the reason, you know, the management said, look, if you can't afford what the guy wants you to do on the artwork, he goes, so just do what you guys can afford to do. But we weren't going to do that because at the time I was told this was their last record, you know, and I didn't want to, you know.
Back in Black.
Yeah, Back in Black. And it's doing incredibly well, man. We're pumping these babies out. And this was the third record for Ruffnation that we did at the plant here.
That's dope.
Yeah.
So that was your third project.
That was our third project. The first one is we did two. Well, actually, we did two at the same time. We did a record, a Be Real solo record. So this record was produced by Black Milk, right? Okay. And the Be Real solo record was produced by Scotty Storch. Scotty Storch started with us with Ruffnation and everything.
I remember.
Yeah, and you know, super cool record. We can put this over here. You know, it's different. You know, it's a different company for us now, at least for me now, because you know, I started out in vinyl, right? That's how I started my career. Like, and that was like, you know, schlepping vinyl. Like, I remember driving up to New York City with, you know, 6,000 School ED PSK albums, right? And lugging those records, 50 to a box, up a
that was a workout.
Six-story walk up on the Upper West Side, right, where Rich Murray lived, and stacking them in his apartment, and then taking them out every day with a cart and going to like downtown. You know, I did a podcast and with the guys from Downtown Records, and they said, man, we remember that you would come in and like, you know, we'd be like, yeah, maybe we'll check it out. Then you'd be back the next day. And then you came back the next day, and I came there every day until finally they took the record in, right? And so, you know, like I when, you know, in the early 80s, I was doing marketing promotion, you know, I was doing School ED and School ED Records, and then I was, after he signed the Jive, I worked records, I did the Easy E records and the NWA for Priority. I did Tone Loc, Young MC, like all these records.
So you did a lot of West Coast?
Yeah, a lot of West Coast stuff. And so I was doing a lot of marketing promotion, and there was a lot of 12 inches, stuff that, you know, that records that I even forgot about to this day, that Joey would mix, right?
Yeah.
So we were like, we had like a real, thing going. You know,
You
it's
had-
like
you had a team.
I
Yeah.
was marketing promotion. He was mixing them and recording them and everything. And so we were like, when we got recruited by Enigma Records, and it was a guy named Wes Hine and his brother Bill, who owned Enigma. Enigma started out. These guys worked for Gem Imports, right? So they bought in a lot of like really crazy European, imports and everything. And then they started their own little import business, and they called it Enigma. And a rock band came in there one day and they wanted to say, well, can you guys distribute this record for us? And they said, yeah, right? And the group was Poison, right? And
What?
yeah.
Yeah, that's
So-
crazy.
Yeah. So
That's crazy. That's good.
yeah, so Enigma ended up they ended up doing a deal with Capitol, and they did a co-venture there. So when I shopped Schoolie to Capitol, we were looking for a label deal. But at the time, I was really naive. I didn't do a label deal. But we didn't have an artist roster. We didn't have the track record. We didn't have anything to justify them getting. They bought Enigma as an example. So we were with them for a year, and then we got recruited by Columbia Records. And our first record we did was Chiba. Then we had a record we did Tim Dog, Fuck Compton.
Okay,
I was just
now
about to ask you
we
that
have to ask
question.
you that
Yeah,
question.
why don't you guys
What-
ask some questions?
What was it? What was it like? What was it like? Knowing that you work with a lot of West Coast artists, working with Tim Dog.
Did you get any backlash from Fuck Compton?
Yeah.
No, actually, we didn't. At least I didn't. I think it's because I took the position that if an artist on the label wants to do a song called "Fuck Compton" or "Fuck Chicago" or "Fuck Miami," who am I as the label head to tell him he couldn't do it, right?
Yeah.
Because
That's right.
because I I worked with Schoolie, right? And Schoolie was kind of like my barometer, because when we started RuffHouse, I hated everything. I hated everything. It was really hard after being with Schoolie for all that time to suddenly start looking at other people's shit. And I'd be like, oh man, that shit's hokey. I mean, I'm not going to say names, but there was some hip hop groups. That's Sharon. That's Cool Keith's manager.
Okay.
I'm doing a Cool Keith record. I'm really excited about it. We're doing an Ultra record too. I just got to tell her I'm going to call her later. I hated everything. And so it was just, he was my barometer. So Tim Dog, when he came along and he came through the Ultra guys, right? Because Tim was like an auxiliary member of,
So Ultramagnetic MCs brought Tim Dog to you.
yes.
Okay.
And so we did that record, and but what I liked about it was that he never really progressed on to do like a second record because
So that was just a single, wasn't it?
Right? No, it was an album.
Oh, an album.
Yeah,
Wow.
Penicillin on Wax.
Oh, gotcha.
But here's the thing, it's that if you have to look at the era, because now we're like in the early '90s, right?
Okay.
And hip hop, so the way it went is in the 80s, in the 70s and 80s, if you had a hit song as a hip hop group, right? It was a good bet that you were going to have a decent album, right? Yeah. But then in the 90s, kids are Weed's back, right? Weed's back.
Yeah, 90s.
In the
yeah.
90s, 80s, weed was like, people smoked it, but it wasn't like in the
No,
90s, right?
90s.
So a couple
There's
things.
a blunt.
Couple things
Give me a
happened.
blunt.
Couple things happened. It's what I call the great colonization, right? So hip hop mainly throughout the 80s was the purview of these independent companies, these producers and guys who were doing dance music in the 70s and the early stages of hip hop. So they're the production companies and everything, but the majors gave it a very wide berth, right? And why is that? Because they did the same thing with disco, right? The majors got into disco because it was cheap, it was easy to do, and what happened was they were doing, this was in the 70s, and this is where it got really fueled with drugs and the whole music business, and they got in this thing where these promo guys, right, who were carrying around briefcases full of and they were taking Percocets, like Tic Tacs, right, and stuff like that. These guys were literally buying records onto the chart, but you needed the physical sales, right? So what they were doing is they were shipping records and claiming sales of records that haven't sold, right? And what would happen is that after the charts and everything later on, these records would come back in droves, right? But what happened was that, like, you know, you had the Bee Gees and you had these great, like, you know, that was a great album, man. The Bee Gees, Saturday Night Fever. And then you had, like, you know, like all this great stuff like that. And then there was this huge disco backlash, right?
Yeah.
So what they
Yeah,
weren't
they were burning.
they were burning
the
yeah,
disco.
the guy in
Yeah,
Chicago.
up in-
Like, was it Chicago?
The baseball
Detroit.
field.
Detroit,
yeah.
right.
Detroit.
Oh,
It was
was
in
it-
Chicago,
Detroit.
wasn't it?
Was it Chicago? I thought it was Detroit.
This is your.
Oh, it's my water? Okay. Yeah, so what, you know, what happened was they knew what they were doing was wrong, right? You know, Neil Bogart, who owned Casablanca Records, had one artist, and he was on TV giving her a gold record, right? But the record wasn't gold, right? So you know.
So they were fronting.
Yeah, you know, there was I love to love you, baby. I love the love. First ever 12-inch, right? Yeah. So extended play, right? Extended play record, 12-inch. So they were shipping records. Records were coming back, but it was all kind of like under the radar, and you know they're doing all this bullshit. But when the backlash of disco happened, people just stopped buying disco records, right? Disco sucks, all that bullshit, right? Now, you have all these disco records coming back at once. Now, instead of like, you know, a couple boxes here and there, you know, of like records that are coming in steady stream and you just hit them, now you got tractor trailers, you know, landing, right? Tractor trailers landing, and these records are getting stacked up to the ceilings in these major labels' warehouse. So now it's all out in the open, right? And this is what led to all the investigations in the payola and all that stuff. And so when hip hop was like, so a lot of people thought, okay, well, hip hop, what is it? It looks like, you know, it looks like this kind of like easy Band-Aid remedy to get over, like, you know, you have the disposability of disco, right? And, you know, because disco, there's the thing I love about disco, right? There's no pretense in that music.
Yeah. Disco was awesome.
Disco's about fucking.
Disco's hitting now.
Disco's about fucking. All right, we know what it's about, right? And so
getting high.
Yeah. So there's no pretense about it. If you look at the lyrics of disco records, it's like dance, go home, get high, go right? And so these records are all coming back, and so the major labels, people lost jobs over it and all that crazy shit. So then there's hip hop, right? Yeah. So now hip hop is kind of like still like a niche thing, but it's like, you know, it's doing pretty well. And so, but they leave it alone. They left it alone. Hip hop actually had something that a lot of genres didn't have, and I think this was important, right? Was that it had a good, solid 10 years of finding its own identity on its own before it got fucked with.
Yeah, I never
right?
thought about it like that.
Yeah. Well, here's what happened.
Yeah.
When I to give you an example, Lawrence and Dana Goodman, right, the guys who own Pop Art Records, right, in Philadelphia. You know, these guys had the Hilltop Hustlers,
Steady B,
Cool
Steady
C,
B, Cool
right?
C.
They had, but the Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, right, and they had the Roxanne Shante, which we did the video for it.
And Bismarck, they had all the Juice Crew. The original Juice Crew was there.
But they did we did the video for Roxanne Shante, and Joey mixed it. But the thing is, I didn't know Joey. We didn't know each other at the time. Because remember, Rich Murray, he was my film partner. We lived together in West Philly. So anyhow, so now, like the Lawrence and Dana Goodman, they were fiercely independent guys, right? Their whole thing was like they were making money, right? They were selling records. Same thing was like Schoolie D. We were making money, selling records independently, right? So we signed with Jive. So now Joey and I start RuffHouse, but we're like an independent label. Right, we had to deal with Enigma that was independent. We were doing stuff independently, and I'll never forget, man, the day I came in and Lawrence and Dana had their like RCA jackets on, right?
Yeah.
Jive Records hats, and I'm like, "What's going on?" He's like, "You know, we signed with a major, right?" And it's like, and I remember Dana said, "Man, if you in this day and age you went for major, you're fucked, right?" And I was like, "Oh, I couldn't believe this," you know. I was disappointed. You know, these guys, like, you know, but then it got me thinking, right? Because when the major labels got into hip hop, right? A couple things happened. It's, you had the advent, because it was actually like a perfect storm. You had the advent of MTV. So the only way MTV was going to get behind a video song is if radio was playing it. But the only way radio was going to get into a song, MTV had to be fucking with it, right? And Frank Zappa, in the documentary, they show a scene where he's standing out in front on a street in New York and it's raining, and he's pointing to this building. He said there was a time in this country where there was like tens of thousands of radio stations that you had a chance to get your shit played on. He goes, that's all gone now because of these people, right? MTV. Because MTV basically dictated what was going to happen.
So
right?
they were, yeah.
Because they were the first, it was the first time ever in the history of music where, forget like, the Ed Sullivan Show and stuff like that, where you actually saw, drilled into your head every day, you saw these artists performing a song. And I think what that did a couple things. It took away the mystique, right? When I was a kid, going to a concert at like the Tower Theater in Upper Darby or the Spectrum, like in Philadelphia, it was like when you saw a band performing, it was like, holy shit, there they are.
Yeah.
There they are.
Yeah.
Because the only exposure you have to them is like Cream magazine and like the album cover.
The album cover.
Like that's
that was
it.
big, yeah.
Yeah, but that was it. But when you finally see the guys, it was like a big mystical event.
Yeah.
Now nobody gives
MTV destroyed it.
Yeah,
Now,
nobody.
what was the first video they played? Video killed the radio star.
You know who that
Yeah.
is? That is
Who was that?
As a friend of mine, Trevor Horn, right? Trevor went on to do. He joined Yes as a bass player, and he ended up touring with the band, Owner of a Lonely Heart.
Yeah.
Right. But what he's more known for is that he's the production company for Seal, and he did you remember Moments in Love? Dun dun dun.
The Art of
dun,
Noise.
Art of Noise. That's
Noise,
Trevor Horn. He did Frankie Goes to Hollywood. He did all that stuff with that crazy, sampled hits and everything. That's all Trevor Horn, but he's a brilliant musician. So yeah, the Buggles, video killed radio star. So now you have MTV, right? So what's happening is that the MTV is controlled by the majors. It's how it comes down. It's how it works. They're the ones who are juicing it and everything. So once they sunk their hooks into hip hop, what happened was the independents couldn't survive. Labels like Sleeping Bag couldn't get videos played on MTV. You couldn't. Independent label had no shot unless you had some record that was like an anomaly, like a hit.
Is that
right?
when you decided to merge with Columbia, or?
They came along just in time because it was crazy. So they came along. But the colonization was pretty much complete by the early 90s, right? Yeah. So they colonized the hip hop business, right? They took it, but a couple things happened. So now, there was always this disparity between black artists and white artists, right? Like in the 60s, 70s, right, 80s and everything, black artists would get, like, if you're an R&B group, you got a budget of like $85,000 to make a record, and the rock band got $400,000, and they could take a year to make their record, right? Yeah. R&B group, nah, man, you got to get this shit done because we got to get you on the road, right? But a lot of that started to even out in the 90s, and this is like what the part of the documentary series that we're doing at Fanscape Disney is that the 90s actually saw for the first time. Here's the interesting thing about hip hop. Hip hop is the first genre of music to create its own global economy, right? Think about that. Wow. What other genre of music in history has created so many high net worth entrepreneurs, right? An artist, clothing, everything, right?
Tapped into everything,
right? But besides hip hop, right? The
globally,
the hip hop is it's 1/3 of all global recorded music sales, and it's half of all music streaming, right? And the hip hop audience has spending power of over $500 billion a year, right? See, that shit's powerful, right?
Yeah.
Because you know what it's like? It's like you're looking at the same wallpaper for years and you're not really thinking about it, Yeah. But the reality is that there's a lot of things about hip hop that just so in the early 90s, now you have artists that are getting budgets. So two things: they're getting budgets. CDs, right? CDs were conceived. They were invented by it was a co-venture between Philips and Sony. 1983, they came out with the CD, right? The compact disc, right? Now the compact disc costs $4 or $5 to make because it was this new technology, right? And that's why CDs were expensive as shit early
CDs,
on.
did it help or it helped out?
Yeah, CDs cost a lot of money. So you would typically pay in the beginning like $11.99 for a CD. Now an album only costs $1.75. That's for the vinyl, that's for the jacket, right? Labels, everything. That costs $1.75. By the early 90s, CDs became ubiquitous. That's all you bought now. Everybody bought CDs. Yeah. Albums still cost $1.75 to make. CDs at that point, like on you're doing volume,
weren't
Sony,
even a buck, were they?
There was 67 cents, right? Yeah. That's for the jewel box. That's for the pull-out gatefold. That's for the CD, right? So there's 67, 70 cents to make each, right? All in. So albums cost $1.75, and they cost $11 retail. CDs cost 67 cents. But instead of the price of CDs going down, what happens? It went up, right? And Clive Davis started premium pricing on CDs, right? So now CDs are like $16.99, $17.99, $18.99, right?
That was all profit.
Yeah, pure profit, right? So that was like, dude, we were in a crazy, it was like the perfect storm. You had popularity, hip hop, you had CDs, right? But here's where it all comes crashing down. It's that it wasn't just hip hop. I mean, there are other genres of music, but what it did was that it helped create. You never say, look, man, co-ventures in black music were virtually unheard of till the 90s, right? But you couldn't ignore the money, right? The managers, the business managers, the lawyers, you could not ignore the fact that it was like so what happened was heads of major labels, right? They get bonuses based on sales, right?
Okay,
so that's how they get. That's all like any executive at any company that's in the business of manufacturing and distribution, right? These guys, when you saw the profits of CDs, turned around and said, you know what? To the board, right? To Warner, Sony, right? Instead of paying me a bonus on sales, pay me a bonus on market share. Market share to these motherfuckers is like everything in the world, right? Okay, this is what, like, when they're out on the golf course, man, they're not talking about profits and, or ROIs, and they're talking about market share. Market share is a big thing. If you ever notice any of the biggest of the big companies, when they boast about their shit, when they're bragging about all their shit, it's like they talk about their market share, right? So now, how do you achieve market share, right? How do you do it? You fucking send out CDs because they were so expensive. The profit margins were astronomical, and so they're just pushing out CDs, right? So when they were able to say that we shipped X amount of CDs, blah blah, they're able to talk about they had this market share, right?
So it was all about how many they shipped.
Yeah. So here's the problem. The problem was that when you told an artist he can now put up to an hour to 70 minutes of music on a CD, right? When the artist found out that they had the ability to put all that music on a record, so then a guy like me, right? Group comes in,
here we go,
and they deliver their record, and there's like 19 songs on it. And it's like, yeah, man, we're prolific, we got all 19 songs. Look at how much we write. I don't know where somebody told kids that by having more is like makes them look better. Yeah. It's like so fucking stupid, right? Because it's about it's about quality over quantity. Real substance.
All day.
Like I don't want to hear 10 fucking mediocre songs. Give me 2 and they're great and I'll be thrilled. So what happened was these CDs are now coming out and they're like not so good because the mentality is like the directive is seeped down to the A&R floor.
You just said it's quantity over. They forgot about the quality.
You only have like 4 songs on the whole thing.
Yeah, and so
worth anything.
How many times have you went out and bought a CD based on a song, and you
that's
got home,
the rest of it's garbage,
and you're sitting there and your clips couldn't do this? It's like
what
wow,
is this?
I just got fucking jacked for $16.99, right? Okay, yeah. So what happened was kids. Because look, how much, look, disposable income, right? A kid is going on Saturday. His parents give him $30 to tell him to get the fuck out of the house, right? He's going to go down. He's going to buy one CD, right? Yeah. One CD and maybe who the fuck knows, So like a new pipe to smoke weed in, whatever. But the thing is, it's like when he just spent $20 on a CD, and he gets home and there's one song on it, right? That suddenly got kids thinking like, what the fuck? So what comes along? What do kids do? Whoa, Napster, right?
Yeah,
because
that was big.
Napster. Now let's face it, the records on Napster didn't sound good, right? To listen to it, but kids don't give a fuck.
Yeah, they don't care about quality.
That changed the game.
They just want the song, right? So really, the industry pushed kids into the arms of Napster. That's just a fact, right? I mean, look, the internet and everything, the whole machinations of downloading and the process, that was going to happen regardless. But it was because the major labels were, like, let's face it, man, the 90s, up until just recently, were the most profitable decade in the history of music, right? 1978 was actually, I'll tell you guys an interesting fact about vinyl. 1978 was the most biggest year in the history of vinyl sales, 334 million records in 1978. So let me tell you how big vinyl is now.
Yeah, why now? Why vinyl now?
The RIAA said that I'm going to tell you some really crazy facts too. The RIAA and Billboard magazine put out a statement last June saying that if the industry had the ability, because you got to remember, you go from 338 million records in 1978 to 2000, less than a million, because of downloading and everything. Because especially, you look, the first genre of music that turns back on vinyl was hip hop genre. Because look, people were anxious. When we get your shit out there, right? Mm-hmm. So studio processes got so quick. It was like, oh shit, you mean I can record this now and have my shit out in a week, right? Yeah. Now it's like they record the shit, they do a video the next day, and they got on, So and they're just getting the beats off of YouTube. But the whole thing became so transient and so quick that that there was no vinyl was just like such a thing that was forgotten about, nobody cared about, and so it just like 2000, less than a million combined vinyl and CD sales, right? Mm. 2021, the IRA and Billboard say that because there's no major pressing plants anymore, they're all gone. Right, it's just places like
this. Is it.
Right?
We're here.
We're here right now.
We're sitting right here.
I think there's like 38 of these places. They're all throughout the United States. So what happened was they said that if the industry had the ability to meet consumer demand on vinyl, that we could potentially be over 400 million copies for towards 2021. And here's why vinyl is happening. All right. So here's an amazing fact.
I'm ready.
Vinyl, 60. They're estimating between 63 and like 68%, 70% of the people who buy vinyl records do not own turntables or phonographs.
So what are they buying for?
Although the phonograph, for the first time in history, is now in the top 10 list of gifts that people give each other. Right. So the reason is because we got any records? Any records over? Jess, can you give me some records? I'm going to show you why.
And then what about the sound of the vinyl? Is that one of the reasons that they like it?
Well, I'm going to get into that in a minute.
Okay.
I'll get into that in a minute. Give me a stack.
I remember the crackling.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's thanks. This is our stack, right? Right? Is this a stack? Okay. So, it's alphabetical order. All right. So basically, the biggest reason, right, is
artwork.
Right? It is because when people buy albums, they're buying a piece of art, right? Now, look at this cover, man. That's RIAA.
They like to be able to touch it.
Right? Yeah. And
read it.
Yeah. And that's
look at it.
This was a look at this.
Oh, look at this. Look at this album.
Yeah, see this?
That's vinyl.
That's vinyl. So you have colored vinyl. So what happened was that throughout the last 20 years, the hardcore punk groups and indie bands and indie labels, they've kept vinyl on life support, right? And around 2011, the collector's market started to come back. So right now, the majority of most people who buy vinyl records, they're collectors, and
they're never going to play.
They don't even know it. But there's been a cause and effect to this too.
Okay.
So this record is one of our records, right? It's blowing up, right? It's made right
the
here
new
to our
RZA,
plant.
RZA, Wu-Tang.
Yeah, it's called Saturday Afternoon Kung Fu Theater.
Kung Fu Theater.
And we got another record coming out in like about 2 months. And
versus Bobby Digital.
Called, this is RZA versus Bobby Digital, and the next one is Bobby Digital in the Pit of Snakes, and it's
yo, this dude is wild.
It's dope, yeah, man. Oh yeah, RZA, man. Oh my God,
RZA's that dude.
This guy is like, it's so cool.
You should see this album cover.
So here's another group. I heard this record, the video. Chuck D put it on his he put it on his Twitter, and he tweeted it out, and it's it was Arrested Development, and the video is featuring Big Daddy Kane, right? The song's called Vibe, and I'm freaking over this video, and I go and I go to search his IG page. I go to his Twitter page. I can't get him through here, and I go to his IG page. I send him a message, right? Now I'm thinking, I'm never gonna hear from this guy. These people, none of these people ever look at their shit, right? Man, 7 o'clock the next morning.
Called you right away.
Phone rang. I saw Georgia area code. It's got to be. And we talked for a couple of minutes, and it's like, yeah. I said, look, man, we just want to I'll put out the vinyl and everything. He said, let's do this, right? So their last record, and I have that record too that we're getting ready to do that. It's produced by the same guy, a guy named Configa, right, over in England, who's like dope. Boom bap producer, man, incredible.
Configa.
He's actually got a doctorate's degree in hip hop. Right?
Oh wow!
Yeah,
Wow.
It's like crazy. So anywho, this record, his last record, didn't really come out. Right? They did like 400 pieces of vinyl, and that was it. This record, it's right now. It's our biggest record to date, and we're gonna probably be like, I think we could be up to like 15,000 copies on the vinyl. But you gotta remember, it's a double album set. Okay, so this is like probably this is the type of shit that sells
Arrested
itself.
Development. Arrested Development.
It
y'all.
sells itself, right? But look at that cover.
Cover's
How
dope.
awesome is that cover, right?
Remind you of something from the 70s.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, my understanding is this young woman on the front is a very famous singer from South Africa, right?
Okay.
But it's just like, it's just a beautiful cover. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the key. Is like, if you have a cover that's engaging. So the way what I'm trying to say is that album artwork is more important now than it was back then.
I used to like the Funkadelics every time they came out with an album.
That's Pedro Bell.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's who influenced the Schoolie. Did Schoolie
Yeah,
show you?
he's
Did he show you
Funkadelics.
Did he show you the new album cover?
He didn't show us
Bootzilla.
the new album cover, but we heard some of the new. Oh my God! it's
George
incredible.
Clinton.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Incredible.
That's ours. We're putting that out. But I'll tell you, the new album cover, he sold that on an auction, on a Christie's auction. It's like, I'm going to tell you what he got for it. It was like nuts. But it sold in like 5 minutes.
Oh wow!
It's crazy. So this isn't on our label. This is actually on Tommy Boy, but we're pressing it up, right? Okay. So this is the House of Pain.
House of Pain.
Right? Now here's what's interesting about this. On this original record, right, the song Jump Around, we had gotten the demo tape for House of Pain, right? And
I remember.
and basically, I don't know why. Joe didn't think they were developed enough, but we ended up not doing it. But then, like half a year later, we're finishing the Crisscross record. We got a song called Jump, and it's big, right? They find out that we have a song called Jump because they had a song called Jump. We had never heard it, but they were convinced that somehow, and I think the manager had a lot to do with it. This woman Amanda was like stoking them, right? But they were convinced that Joe Nicolo, my ex-partner, had taken their song and given it to Crisscross, re-recorded it and everything. I'll tell you, it's
Now,
not
Crisscross is celebrating what, the anniversary?
Yeah.
Isn't that that's today?
Yeah.
Today's your anniversary.
The anniversary.
Right. But here's the thing, man. It's that the two songs sound nothing alike. Now,
Totally different.
So Questlove told me though that there's the same drum thing in there, like there's the same drum sample. But I don't hear anything alike in both songs, right? And as a matter of fact, when that Criss Cross song, when we did it, I didn't even really like it first. You know, I just thought it was one of those, you know, wasn't what really my cup of tea. But so then we're pressing this up. This is the anniversary edition for House of Pain, right? That's a beautiful record, right? It's a really beautiful.
Look
record.
at the artwork.
Yeah,
back to the artwork. It all goes back.
This is why people are buying albums, right? So here's the irony. The irony is that at the end of the song by House of Pain, Jump Around, he said, this goes out to Joe the Biter Niccolo, right?
Whoa.
Right? Yeah, it's already
Never
in the video.
even knew that.
Yeah, he gets right up in the camera. This goes out to Joe the Biter Niccolo. Yeah, it's like hip-hop mythology, man. So,
wow.
So these records, right, are actually being pressed up by Joe's twin brother Phil.
Joe's twin brother.
Right? But he should be very happy about that. I'm going to tell you why. Because these records aren't just like any other records. And I'm going to show you one, right? These records.
Snap.
No. Here we go. This is one.
Oh, snap.
This record's on mass. Where's the record we're pressing up? We did this for Nas, because Nas was originally a RuffHouse artist.
Esco.
Right? This record was a double album set, and they needed them done. And we did it, right? 15,000.
Oh, wait, real quick. You were the first guy to put Nas out.
Yeah.
So you basically discovered Nas.
I know. I can't say I discovered him, but
you were the first to put him out.
Yeah, I was the first. Nobody wanted to sign him.
Okay.
I'm not gonna get into that whole story, man, because
All right, I got you.
That's cool.
But basically, it was given to us because it was like, okay, let RuffHouse do it, and if it blows up, at least we get half of it, and if it fails, we take it all from their money we owe them, right?
Yeah, right.
They could deduct it from our pipeline royalties. Okay, so this is the Nas record, you know, and it's a beautiful record, but every one of these records have something in common, okay? And here's what it is. It's, you know, we have a thing, it's called 140 plus, okay? So, you feel these records, right?
Yeah,
it doesn't feel like a typical piece of vinyl.
Nah.
Right? Because what it is that
it's incredible.
Yeah. Here's the thing from a technical standpoint. These records are basically this record's a transitional record, meaning that it came out. This is a record that happened.
Can you say that real quick?
Yeah. That record happened while we're changing colors in the machine, and that's why it's got the streaks on it, right?
But it ended up working.
Yeah, but look at this, man! Beautiful picture, Nas, beautiful artwork. You know, we got some really crazy vinyl records here. So this record, when they're mastered, it goes through a thing called the Perfect Groove Artificial Intelligence Lathe, right? It's a virtual lathe. And what it does is it auditions the track before they cut the lacquers, right? And what it'll do is that it'll create a virtual rendering of the track on the computer screen, of the album on the computer screen, and it'll say like at 2 minutes and 42 seconds, the groove formation does this, and the depth is here, and at this temperature, right? All this information, it's a corrective analysis for the mastering engineer, right? Because what are we doing here? We're trying to get to a place where we are actually replicating the intended audio equalization of the original studio performance, right?
Okay.
Then when the record gets plated, we use a thing called digital matrix nickel plating system, right? These are special stampers that are fabricated in a way that that it's not zero playback degradation, but it's pretty effing close, right? So these are audiophile quality records. You're not going to get this from Croatia and Czech Republic or most plants in the United States, So it's like, let's see what else. We got some other cool records. This was a cool record because this was a very hard record to do. We keep one of these here, right? But that's actually 180 grams. So here, what do we have here? This is Nas.
Supreme.
The song called Rare off the new album, and it's a co-marketing thing with Supreme Clothing, right? And these are selling on the internet. I think like one was for $2,400, right? But here's what was interesting about this record. You see how that's like white vinyl, and you have a white label, and it's in a white die-cut jacket, right?
Yeah.
It's really
Something
white.
fell out of it.
That's the card that goes with it. Okay, so the challenge is that when you take, you know how often you see a white label for white vinyl? Never.
Never.
Because the way these records, well, the way it happens with the label actually gets pressed onto the record when the record's getting pressed with the heat, right? And it's very hard to get it to where there's not going to be any discoloration in the label, right? But the way we finally got to the point where you have this like kind of like eggshell color on the label that goes right with the vinyl. This is really a technological feat to make a record like this, right? And so it's white, and white, right? With the Supreme box logo on it. And the records that we did, they had the numbered thing here, right? So this is just one that we keep here to show clients and stuff at the studio. So these were the two records, the Nas records. So I got some Ruffnation stuff here. So this is Wu-Tang versus Remedy, and Remedy
Wu-Tang
beats
forever.
Wu-Tang, right? So essentially, it's Remedy Ross, who is who's always been kind of like in the Killer Bee. He's one of the Killer Bees, right? And everybody. Let me see if from Wu-Tang is on this. It's got Ghostface, Inspector Deck, Conway the Machine, Ghostface Killer, Capadonna, Method Man, Ghostface Killer, Inspector Deck, Master Killer, Capadonna, RZA, Salmon Childs, Method Man, Capadonna, Ghostface, right? Capadonna, Killer Priest, right? Okay, so these records are coming out imminently, and one record that took a lot of people by surprise, right? You ready for this? Is that Tough Crew, Lost Archives.
Tough Crew.
Now this shit was recorded in the late '80s, right? As a matter of fact, there's a excerpt in here where they actually recorded coming in to meet Joe and I at RuffHouse, and we weren't there, right? And you should hear the
You could hear it on there.
You could hear the shit they were talking in the hall, you know.
And you had it all.
But anyhow, this record, man. I mean, here's the thing: Too Tough. The thing about him, like as a DJ, is that he's still doing the same thing that he was doing in the 80s. If you want like a real hip-hop DJ, street DJ, that's your guy, right? This shit is like so unbelievable. And I think the biggest mistake we made was not charging $44.95 for this record, because this shit sold out immediately, right? And we have a new Tough Crew record coming. It's like, I'm just like, it's just like crazy,
That's amazing.
crazy good, right?
That's amazing.
So let me see. We went through a bunch of these records here. We have we got the Styles P and Havoc record. We got a Be Real solo record, and we got a lot of records coming. We're doing Stetsasonic, Yagfu Front, trying to do Lords of the Underground, Jungle Brothers, Double D and Steinsky.
That's going to reintroduce a lot of these groups to the world.
Yeah, we're doing a thing with DJ Scratch. We're doing 5 records with him. We're doing Big Daddy Kane. We're doing Busta Rhymes. We're doing Sweet Tea. We're doing Raw Digga, and let's see. And then there's a bunch of deals I can't talk about because they're not finished. You know, some of those I shouldn't have mentioned because they're not finished. But there's somebody who's really, really big that were, well, 2 people, right? 2 people. One of them a former RuffHouse artist, who you know and love, and then another artist who's probably one of the most iconic. Like, let's put it this way: this artist is basically known to like grandmothers who live in trailer parks in the Midwest, who don't even know that they're a hip hop artist, right?
Yeah. So
who could that be, right? Let's not talk about it, right?
Yeah, I ain't saying nothing.
Yeah. Anyhow,
hush is the word.
Yeah. So basically, this is a state-of-the-art pressing plant.
And how long has that been running?
We've been in business well over a year. But like, if you look at the place, right? I can always come here and take pictures and shoot video to show people and everything, but you can never do it justice unless you actually see like what goes into this place. But like behind me, right? This is a machine. It's a viral warm tone, and this machine can make 2,000 records all by its lonesome. Now, the machines over here, you have a thing called the extruder, which puts the vinyl pellets into a puck, right? Then you put that puck on the stampers put the labels.
Put the label on.
And it 15 tons of pressure goes down, heats it up, cools it off like in a millisecond, comes out, you got to trim it, and then you put it on these spindles, and it gets sleeved and jacketed, right? This machine does all that.
Oh wow.
It won't sleeve it, jacket it, but it does everything up to then, right? And it's like a Pez dispenser. How you take it's got the the spindles are already inside the machine, and you just take them out with everything
ready
on.
to go.
You don't really touch the record, right? Till you go to after it's cooled down and it's cured, and you put it into the jacket. So I mean, right now, I mean, this place is so busy that I'm just looking for somewhere to put these for a second. So yeah, that's the right now. I'm on track to becoming the largest independent vinyl distribution label and distribution company in North America.
And you see vinyl taking off again.
Oh yeah. Well, let's put it this way: the crazy thing is, right? If you look at say the '90s, right, the record business in the '90s or like in the '80s and going in the '90s, it was physical product, right? So we're talking about albums and CDs. Right? Okay. So let's forget streaming and downloading, right? The business right now today, for me, is bigger than the business was in the 90s. Think about that, right? just on the vinyl part of it alone. But here's the thing. The problem is there's not enough plants to press up vinyl, which I think is the greatest thing in the world because the majors, if they had their pressing plants back and everything, what they would do is vinyl would stop being this special thing because they would just pump out so many copies.
Much of it.
Like, I can imagine like this record.
The worth of it.
A record like this will end up in a truck stop cutout bin, right? And it's only because the guys that work in sales up at the major distribution powers, their whole thing is like, their job is based on what did you do for me today, right?
Yeah.
So us as a company, we're like, we're invested in a career, right? So we're thinking about, my whole thing has always been less is more. I'd rather sell, if a record has the potential to go out there and sell 10,000 copies, I'd rather sell 3,500 copies at a higher price and nicer packaging, audiophile grade record, and then keep re-releasing it over time, right? Because what it does is it extends the life of the record, the shelf life of the record. The artist makes money continually, right? But when you go out there and you blow your load and you ship 10, but you ship 15, then then that's it. You're done. You're toast. And the other thing is that if they were to do that, the price of records will go down. But the majors will most likely never build pressing plants, right? Because it was 30, 40 years ago, hiring somebody to come and press a record was like working at McDonald's. The machine was like, it was one basic thing. You was like, right? These machines now are all microprocessing. There's all these variables. There's all this stuff that goes on to create this level of quality. And there's only like 4 companies in the world that make pressing machines, right? Mm-hmm. For the major distribution powers, it's not that they couldn't afford to do it, but the time, effort, energy, and resources, and really, it's the focus, right? Because in order to do it right, it would be a massive, massive undertaking. And the reality is, they don't give a shit because vinyl is not a drop in a piss in a bucket compared to streaming sales, right? Yeah. So there's no reason for them to. There's no reason. What I see happening is that I think what's going to happen in every territory, like say in London, it costs a lot of money to send records over to Europe, right? You have, since Brexit, you have import taxes, right? So an American record going overseas to London, right? It sells over there for like 40 pounds, 35, 40 pounds, which in our money is like 50, 60 bucks, right? So the way I see it, like American records will never have the chance to flourish in the European marketplace, right? The only way to overcome that is that they would need to build big pressing plants. But again, back to what I'm saying, that no consortium of mate, that's never going to happen. But they can build smaller plants, right? Like this in every territory. Like, so Warner Brothers can build a small plant, Universal can build a small plant, That way, just for their territory, they can press and distribute records, right? Mm-hmm. So instead of sending records over in box shipments of with the tonnage and the money and the shipping and the export import taxes, you could just send them. You could just send them the stampers.
The stampers,
and they could just build that shit. Yeah. So that's what I think is going to happen. right? It'll either happen through independent sources, or they might, I've had conversations with a couple of majors over there who've asked us to come and look at doing stuff over in England. And I think it's more than likely that they'll just build like a plant that has like, probably 10 machines, and they'll be straight. They'll be able to make enough production in order to accommodate, what they need to do.
Okay, we got a question for you.
Uh-huh.
Who was your favorite artist to work with?
That's not a good question, man. That's not a good question.
You don't want to answer that,
Well,
because it puts you in hot water, or what? What was okay? We'll change it. What was your fondest memory?
Well, no, the fondest memory's always been, when you have big records. I'm not going to front. I mean, a big record is like.
Yeah.
Now
No
there was
featuring your fronting.
There was a point though that for me, because I've always had like a lot of issues. I've had mental health issues. I've like I had drug addiction and for a long time, and one of the things was because I had demons, right, and I constantly was looking for bigger things to happen, right, and it didn't really occur to me till way later on that this is it, It's like I'll never forget. I'm not going to tell you what artist, but I remember going into Sony and a record had just shipped platinum, right? And everybody's all excited and everything, right? And I kind of remember not giving a shit, It's like, well, yeah, big deal. This is what we do. It's day in, day out. It's like, because we had gold and platinum records like every year.
Yeah,
so
a lot of them.
Yeah, so it didn't, it got to be like, I hate to say it, man, but I got like jaded on it because then I started thinking about getting into movies and everything, right? But it's very hard. And I was explaining, I have a friend who works for a really successful independent company. And this company is like now $1 billion company. It's a music company. And this friend's been there for 14 years, from day one when there was only like 4 people working there, right? And, this person goes through like, I guess like maybe a little bit depression about this or that, whatever. But I said, the problem is that you haven't been out in the cold in a long time, right? Because after RuffHouse and then with Warner Brothers and everything, I spent a good like 15, 20 years like thinking, what happens now? What do I do? Where do I go?
Where do you go from here?
Right. And so the thing is though, so I've been out in the cold. I've been like back to the real world, Yeah. And it used to be like, I didn't think I could ever drive a car that wasn't like, this and that and everything like that. Now, I specifically don't want to be seen in anything unless it's an absolute beater. You know what I mean? Because I have like this kind of this. I'm looking at life from the real practical applications, right?
But you were a hip hop James Bond.
Yeah, but
Chris had the Bentley before Jay-Z had a Bentley. Like Chris was pulling up.
No, that's the Aston Martin. I didn't have an Aston Martin. But here's the thing, man. It's that like, I'm not above, like if we need to make a deadline for delivery to distribution and everything, I'm not above stuffing records. I come down there, I'll stuff hundreds and hundreds of records. I don't care. I was driving I had a 2005 Nissan, and then I had a Honda Odyssey minivan because I always wanted a minivan, right? Minivans are dope. I see chicks checking me out at stoplights and everything.
In the minivan.
Right? In the minivan, man. I'm telling you. But the thing is, I always
So
wanted,
when did the exotic car thing end? Because you were the hip hop James Bond.
No. Yeah. Last about 2 years, right before COVID, I had bought a Maserati, a Ghibli, and I bought it pre-owned. It was nice. I had it for. I bought it on the 4th of July. Drove it home, and in a pouring rainstorm, it's got a flat tire. So I call AAA because I'm lazy, and they come and the guy says, well, you need the locking lug nut, right? And I'm like, oh fuck, right? So I look in the glove compartment in the back of the car. It's not they're not there, and so I had to get towed to a place called John Brothers, which is next to our studios in Conshohocken. John Brothers calls up Maserati and they said, well, there's like 12 different sizes. We got to come out there and say it, right? So finally, John Brothers so now after day 8, John Brothers says, Chris, we could just cut the fucking things off and give you a new one. I said, yeah, please do that, right? So now July 10th. Now the night before, I got the best, like I called up Geico, and I got new insurance for it. I took out my regular insurance, got like full blown, full everything, right? The next day, that was the 9th, 11:30 at night, I got the insurance. The next day, I drove it up to Brooklyn, and I'm going over the Ozone. I'm on the Ozone Park Express, one of those places, right? I'm driving, and I see this car, and it comes up, and it's like, it's like I thought he was drunk, right? And I kind of figured out the guy was just like in a hurry, trying to figure out a way to just go faster than the flow of traffic, which was impossible. And what happened was he tried to pull in front of somebody, and he realized that he's going to cause an accident, so he comes right back, right in front of my lane, and I clipped him, right? So it was supposed to be my fault, but it wasn't, and so the car was totaled, and I didn't think it was totaled at first because it had like a crease in the hood, and they said it went all the way back through the drivetrain, right? So Geico totaled it, and I hadn't even paid my first premium. Then I went out, bought a used Mercedes 550, and I was helping somebody move, and they parked it like in the street in South Philly, and some dude who didn't have insurance at 4 a.m. in his van like wiped out the front of it, right?
Oh,
Same
wow.
thing. That was like, I still haven't paid my first premium, right? And that car was like $27,000 to get fixed. So that was like, to me, that was the heavens telling me that like, yo, man, you need to like not fuck with these cars, And so
That's amazing fact. Chris Schwartz drives normal.
yeah.
He drives. Yeah.
That's what's up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
that's
no,
what's up,
tell you,
yeah.
beaters are just like, there's just something satisfying when you're driving a car that's got 190,000 miles on it,
Yeah.
and you don't owe anything, like, it's like, I mean, I know people are going to hear this and say, oh, man, bullshit, man, but I've done both, so.
Yeah, you've had some incredible vehicles.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, man, it's like, I look at everything, I look at the real world applications now in everything I do, you know what I mean? And the thing is, this is
this is the new evolved Chris Schwartz.
Well, no, this is the new evolved business that I'm in, but it's like, I mean, it's, look, I've had literally 40 years when you think about it, right?
Yeah.
40 years of real practical experience in this thing, and I'm making mistakes, My distributor is so pissed at me right now. I'm like, I don't even want to go over there anymore, right? Because I scheduled records, right? And no matter what you do, shit's always going to take longer, right? And there's nothing, we got a new company to do packaging, and they're awesome. The woman's telling us, like, 12 to 14 days, give or take. And the very first record we do with her is like, the first 2 records is like the Cypress, and they took like 14 weeks to make the jackets for them. It's because of COVID, there was a paper shortage, right? So the big mills were rationing paper to these companies that sell paper. So there was like, we just had to wait, man. There was nothing we could do, right? So meanwhile, you get pre-orders and everything. You can't fill these pre-orders, and people are like screaming at you and everything, But but now I've taken like a whole kind of new attitude of like, because I always want to get stuff out really quick. I just want to get it out and and generate the billing and get it out to people. And it's like, just sometimes you got to take like more of a more practical view on stuff and say, okay, well, look, I know that I can get this record out in September. If this happened, that happened, right? But what's the likelihood? Even when it's all aligned, right? The stars are aligned. It's just not worth it. I'll never want to have to push a record back again, right? So I'm now opting for really just wanting to make sure that there's enough time to set these records up properly. I mean, like right now, we're selling through on everything. Every one of our records are selling out, and we have like, man, 40, 50, almost 40, 50,000, orders, right? The thing about vinyl, it only goes one way. Used to be when you shipped a vinyl record or record,
They could return it.
It went. You waited 90 days, and and see what happens. Now it's like, if they order it, they bought it, right? So it's and then the other part of it is that this place presses a lot of records, right? So we got to find our place down here and like in the queue and everything. But on the whole, I have to tell you, I'm enjoying this more now than I was back then.
Seriously?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
because this is the real record business that I started in.
Yeah.
Back to the basics.
I started. I'll tell you, the one big difference is, though, is that, these boxes, 50 records in these boxes, when I was a kid, I used to be able to take these things and juggle them, right? Now, we went down to a record store. I mean, one of my partners, Eric, Eric Victor, he's the largest vinyl retailer in Philadelphia. He's also the largest smoke shop in Philadelphia, too. He just opened another store in Westchester. I went down to a store and I had all these records to take out because we were going to do this whole thing. And
They got a little heavy.
They got a little heavy. And I told this kid, I said, kid, hey, run into that store there and tell the girls to come out. And these girls come out and they're like carrying the shit around. I said, oh my God, I'm going to get my ass kicked by a girl who works in a record store. But it's exciting stuff. And, we're opening up we're going to be distributing records to head shops throughout North America, which nobody does. And we're also starting a big thing in records right now are these subscription companies like Vinyl Me Please. Back in the day, it used to be RCA Record Club, Time Warner, right? Columbia House, right? Those were the 3 big record clubs, right?
Yeah.
Now there's like 14 of them.
Oh, wow.
That's how big like vinyl. But we're going to be the first hip hop only subscription service, and it's going to be really good shit. I mean,
That's dope.
You can see it.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Okay, we got more questions for you.
The
Yeah,
fire
Well,
round.
we still need to know.
You asked me a question. Yeah. Okay. I loved everybody for different reasons, right? I think the one group that was like just add water makes its own sauce, that was the easiest to deal with, was probably Cypress.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you why. It wasn't because they did anything that no different. Look, everybody worked, right? When you look at the Fugees and everything, I mean, they worked, man. It's like, when you look at, just like with Cypress Hill was recording as they went along. Same thing with the Fugees. They did that record. Sony wanted to drop it. We wouldn't let it happen. Get Salam Remy to do the mixes on it. We kept it alive, and they were working out the songs for the second record as they were going. The creative process never stopped. Okay.
Gotcha.
But what do all these groups have in common? Right? It's something I was going to earlier. They're all self-contained. Okay. Is that I tell people like, well, what would you like? What advice would you give? Okay, go out there and find an artist who knows how they want to be perceived by their audience, right? Who can write and produce their own stuff, who knows how they got the whole thing. It's all self-contained. Look at those artists. Look at Criss Cross with Jermaine. Look at Cypress. Look at Fugees. Look at Tim Dog, Ultramagnetic. These are self-contained.
Did you work with DMX?
We put out the first record.
First record with
Yeah,
DMX.
yeah. What happened there was that we basically signed him. We did a song called "Born Loser," and when it came time to decide what we were going to do with the if the project is to move on to an album, the option had lapsed, and I don't know why this happened, but it was like when we put out the record, apparently we were already like months into the deal. So by the time the record got out there and it was doing something, he had already fallen in with the Rough Riders. But I'll say this though, I think Rough Riders did a terrific job with them, right? Yeah. Number one, and I don't know if we could have done what they did. I don't know. I doubt it. There's
another situation you just talked about where they were self-contained.
Yeah.
The Rough Riders.
Yeah, Rough Riders. Yeah, but see, they did something different though. They sold his personality. You know what I mean? That's no easy feat, man. It's like you have to have the artist to do that,
Okay, next question. Top 5 dead or alive, and it doesn't
Any
have
genre.
to be hip hop.
Any genre.
Chris Schwartz, top 5.
You guys suck. Okay. Well,
Doesn't have to be hip hop.
Any genre.
Any genre of music. Top
Any.
5.
Any.
Frank Zappa.
Chris Schwartz, top 5.
Yeah, Frank Zappa.
Frank Zappa.
Philip Glass.
Ooh.
You know Philip Glass is?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, Philip Glass. Minimalist composer. There's the stuff with all the pianos and marimbas and bassoons, right? Man, this is hard. This is hard, man. This
is the fire round.
Philly International. I'm just going to go for
You're
the
just
whole
going
thing.
to go the label.
I'm going to do the whole thing.
The whole Philly International.
I'm going to do the whole thing. I'm going to do Schoolie.
Okay.
I'm gonna do Cypress, and I can substitute, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna substitute Philip Glass for Lauryn Hill. Miss Lauryn Hill, yeah.
Whoa.
Wow. That's
Now
dope.
I know I named 3 of my own artists in there,
yeah,
but it's like I'll be honest, man. It's like when I think of other acts and other things, like I can't, I can't. I like my shit better, I don't know. Like
As you should. As you should.
Yeah.
Fire round.
Michael Jackson or Prince?
Prince, but the Michael's dope.
No, he's dope.
Michael's
He's
dope,
dope,
but Prince is more. Prince to me is like they're both amazing performers. I was never like a huge fan of Michael Jackson's music. Not like Prince, man. When you see Prince live and everything, Michael's cool and like
he does a lot.
He does a lot of cool
He's
shit.
a musical
but man,
genius.
But when you see Prince is entertaining a party, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas Michael is like performing, like it's a different thing.
Two different things.
And I think Prince is probably pound for pound because he's a legitimate musician, and everything. And Michael didn't exactly write all his own songs.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Well, Prince did.
Yeah, where Prince did. Prince tells a story.
Right. Okay, Tupac or Biggie?
Why? Well, first off, I don't even know why people put them in the same category, in the same thing, right?
Let's talk about it.
Because, well, first off, it's like Biggie is a much more commercial thing, right?
Yeah.
Don't you agree? I mean, like
As
that
far
thing. Look,
as-
just like as far as look, here's the thing, man. Tupac started out with Digital Underground, right?
Right.
And he's got like kind of a very unusual pedigree. As a matter of fact, I can't even
His background.
everything.
Yeah.
Whereas Biggie was just like a dope performer, right? Dope, like rhymes, everything, and he was under Puffy's tutelage, right? Which was a very, because like I say, Bad Boy was a club label.
Yeah.
They were a dance label. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So you take that. Every time I think of Biggie, I think about that Herb Albert, right? And it's like he's got a dope fucking voice, man. It's like.
So would you say Tupac then? Tupac was more.
Yeah.
Okay, Tupac. Now,
Tupac.
next question: is Tupac really dead?
Is Tim Dog really dead?
Tupac.
No, I think,
Tupac.
I think Tim Dog's lived. I'm gonna tell you, I was with a group of people. Right?
He's good.
I'm not gonna say who. I'm not gonna say who, but I brought up Tim Dog, and they were just like, yeah, because he's over in Germany with his wife and everything. I'm like, what? Like they're like just common knowledge among them. He's in Germany living with his wife. Right? And I'm hearing this like what? Like really? And they weren't fucking with me. And these are people who would know. All right? But is Tupac really dead? Yeah, I think he is.
He's really dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you follow boxing at all?
No.
Okay, but that's out.
Oh, I follow celebrity boxing.
Celebrity. Who do you have in celebrity boxing? Who's your favorite celebrity
My
boxer?
favorite was let me see. It was two IG people, right? Who you've never heard of, right? And it was like a slap fight. It was funny as shit, man. No, but you know what it is, man. Damon Feldman, the guy who owns Celebrity Boxing, he's a really cool guy. He's been working this shit for like 15 years, and now it's finally happening.
It's going down
It's
right
finally
now.
happening for him, man. Yeah. So no boxing. Like who are the greatest boxing legends for me?
Yes.
I'd have to say Muhammad Ali, right?
Bang.
Yeah, no, but
Yeah.
seriously, no. Look, no. I'm not taking anything away from everybody, but Muhammad Ali, if I remember as a kid watching Muhammad, hearing Howard Cosell and everything, watching him, and it was what got me was the fact that he was dancing the whole time.
Yeah.
Right, and that fucked me up. Because I was like, how do you
He
do
was
that?
enjoying himself.
No, but
Yeah.
since you got the other guy, like, blah, blah, blah. And he's just like it was so light and just like,
Like a butterfly.
And there
Sting
was
like a bee.
But there was something else that he did too that I remember the announcers were talking about, is that he would feign being kind of like a little tired and dizzy and everything.
Yeah.
And he would almost like get the other fighter in believing like, oh man, I got a shot
got
at
him
this.
now. Get him
And
against
then-
the ropes.
But this dude ain't
The
even
famous
start-
rope
this
a dope.
dude ain't even started yet, right? Joe Frazier is from Philly, and he has a gym here and everything. And he used to be up at Frank Virtue, when I started my career in the studio. And I would go up there, and the door's locked. And like bang on the door, and Joe Frazier would like look at the, no, go away, get out of here. You know, it's like because he was always, you know. But yeah.
New artists. Who's your? Are there any new rappers that Chris Schwartz likes, like that you're really feeling, like you're like?
Yeah, Nimlo, Chase Fetty, both who we signed.
It's good. That's good.
Yeah, I had to mention that. Full disclosure, right? You know what, man? It's like here's it's like again, anything else, like the whole mumble thing. You know the kid from Philly, Bry Grader, right?
Yeah.
Bry Grader from Philly.
Okay.
Right? Okay. I thought what this kid did was cool. I liked it, right? And here's what it finally occurred to me, like what they're actually doing, right? It's that you ever listen to kids talk to each other?
Yeah.
And it's like the thing is, a lot of kids don't want to go through the trouble of actually putting together verbs, nouns, and adjectives like form like a sentence.
Too tired.
So, but it's like it turns into this whole like other language. When they're on the phone, they're
But
like,
they understand each other.
Exactly.
Yeah, they understand each other.
That's a crazy thing. I
Yeah.
say that all the time, but they understand each other, right? So like I watch like Brian Grada. It's like remember he had the song called Internet, right? And I was like Internet, right? Like that was the whole song, right? Like he just a gibberish.
People understood it.
You're right. People understood it, right? Because what's happening is that we now live in a world where word processing is at your fingertips. You don't have to know how to write anymore. It does it for you.
You don't
right?
even have to know how to spell.
You don't know how to. You don't have to know how to do shit. Now, I don't really particularly care for a lot of this music, right?
Okay.
But at the same time, I'm not going to be that guy, right? Because I remember in the early '80s, all
Hip-hop.
these dude. When you have a drum machine, you like these guys have been around the '60s and the '70s, these studio heads and everything. These guys say, "Yo, man, get that piece of shit out of here." You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
you're
like,
right.
Yeah, so it's like I'm not, because here's the thing: you cannot ever fault a kid for what's popular among their thing, their whole listening pedigree. It's like it is what it is. It's just that what I don't really understand is that couple things. Number one, it's that I went in the studio with this one group one night. They spent 5 hours looking through YouTube for beats, right? They finally found one. They laid it down, did the rap and an ad lib, and that was it. It was 4 tracks, right? There's no writing. There's no writing artistry in the whole thing.
No real thought process.
And then the drill shit. I mean, it's like I like the little dance that they do. They do that little dance thing.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of cool. But it's in these videos, man. They're just like they're shooting at you, the camera, the whole time. Right? And like I want to be entertained. I want to hear a song. I don't want to be shot at.
Yeah.
I'll tell you though, I don't know if it's an offshoot of the drill stuff, but there's a lot of cool hip hop coming out of like Jamaica, where it makes the drill shit. The difference is they're telling a story. They're telling a story, man, and it's all believable. And there's all these different characters, man. It's like really, really. It's like kind of like what the drill shit is, but the drill shit you don't know who's who, like and everything. And the thing is about these motherfuckers, they're actually genuinely shooting each other in the real world, and they're going on fucking records and talking about it.
Yeah,
right. Did they learn from the dude from Ram Squad?
Oh wow!
You remember that?
Ram Squad.
Yeah,
You remember that?
Tommy Hill from Ram Squad.
Tommy Hill.
Oh, we're doing a new Ram Squad unreleased records. So yeah. By the way, I forgot to mention.
He's good, yo. He's good.
He's setting everything up. Yeah.
No, I did. I swear to God. I wasn't trying to do a plug for the new Ram Squad record that's coming out on Ruffnation.
Nicely done.
But the new Ram Squad record is coming out on Ruffnation.
Ram Squad.
Yeah. But yeah, man. I'm super pumped. I did a deal for a company called Upstream, and it's a company. They're the first ever. They're securities. They're a brokerage house for NFT and they have a whole marketing applications, and they're setting up. So we're doing the interface to do like the airdrops. Literally just keep dropping NFTs, because here's the thing. I'm doing a secondary marketplace, right? I'm creating one because I told you earlier, all these people are buying vinyl records, but they're collectors and they don't even know it. So what's going to happen is that 10 months from now, some of these people are going to wake up and say, wow, man, I have 200 records and I don't even have a turntable, right? And there's going to be a value to these records because they've never been played, right? So what we're doing is that I'm going to start it with, we're going to have probably about 25 to 30 titles, and we're going to do like a pre-auction, right? And this is all going to be, you know, like audiophile grade records. But here's the important thing. In Africa, there's a guy named Charles Hoskinson. He created the Ethereum blockchain, right? He now has a new blockchain called Cardano, but he's not busting it out over here. He's going into developing countries because Africa, there's 1.3 billion people, and like 70% of the population is under the age of 30. Yet only 3% of the population have credit cards or active consumers and buying stuff and everything, right? So what he's doing, he's bringing the blockchain, he's starting Cardano, the first run of it there.
Yeah, I have some Cardano.
Yeah, because it's farmers can't get loans. People can't buy things, all because they don't have identification, right? So farmers are paying 50, 60% predatory rates on loans, you know, down there. And so you look at that, is that the blockchain is going to do to it's going to do to like banks what digital downloading did to the physical record business, right? Because the simple reality is, if you have a smartphone, you don't need a bank account
at all.
You can,
you're right.
because the blockchain, it's incorruptible, it's tamper-proof. It can't be fucked with, right? So let's go. So what's that have to do with vinyl records? So you take a record, hand me a record, right? That one right there, Tough Crew, okay? So this is a Tough Crew record, okay? It's still in the shrink wrap and everything like that. So if somebody were to sell this on the blockchain, if you're the original owner of it, or if you're the company that puts it out, so you do your initial sale, right, on the blockchain, like the auction, right? So now a collector has it, right? They get the record, and they go on and they register it, right? So because it's already got a product code and a QR code assigned to it, they just zap the QR code, right? So now it's registered on the blockchain, okay? In my house, I have 2 Chagalls and a Matisse, right? And they're supposed to be worth all this fucking money, and I always thought they were. But how do I really fucking know? Because there's a letter of authenticity that came from the people that sold it to me.
Yeah.
Who the fuck? What the
Who
fuck
are they?
Yeah. Who the fuck? What the fuck do they know, right?
Yeah, who are they?
So when you have authentication going back to, like, authenticity verified going back to the genesis of manufacture, right, for a record, right? So every time one collector buys it from another collector, they keep the sale on the blockchain to keep it registered there. Because if you're a collector and you're buying this, and it's 3 generations of verification with the 2 other owners or 3 other owners, you're going to want to keep that, because the verification, the authenticity of the fact that it was, like, you know, never played and all that crap, because you can always re-shrink wrap a record and all that stuff, it's what gives it like an enhanced intrinsic value, right? So so that's pretty much the idea, is that I'm going to use this real-world application of the blockchain to create a vinyl record NFT market, right? And it's going to be awesome. And
that's dope.
Yeah. So we're doing but the thing is, NFTs, right? It's going to be everything. We're doing our subscription service. We're launching it as an NFT, because again, you don't like the way that the Upstream, the company I'm going with. See, here's the thing. Most Americans, right, outside the entertainment business, don't know what an NFT is, nor do they give a fuck about NFTs, and they don't know how to buy one, right? Because you got to open a crypto, you can account, like crypto wall, all that bullshit, right? You can buy an NFT through this platform, through Upstream, with just a credit card, right? So my point being is that you know, I think that everything is going to go, because everything right now is tied. It's tied to Shopify. It's tied to a bank. Everything's tied to something, okay? Right? With an NFT, with the blockchain, there's a record, You don't have to have a credit card.
Drop
You
the
ain't got
knowledge.
nothing, man. It's all there, right? And it's like it's a QR code, and it's yours. You own it, and it's recorded, and it's like, and that's what's gonna happen. Insurance companies and banks are gonna get fucked up over it. You're already countering. They're all doing their own whole thing with the blockchain and all that. So, I think that's where it's going.
Cool.
Best Philly cheesesteak.
Oh.
Okay, I like the place that's across from the Copa, right?
Where's that at?
Across from Lickety Split. Not Pat's, not Gino's, and the reason being, I like this place.
Okay.
And I like Ishkabibbles too. It's because
Ishkabibbles,
it's not all over the place.
Yeah.
You know, you get. As a matter of fact, you can eat 2 cheesesteaks from this place, right? And what it takes to eat one from Pat's. My problem has always been with Pat's and Jizz. They're delicious. Don't get me wrong. They're great, but the shit's so sloppy, you know. And I can't stand when shit's falling apart. Like I learned, like I'm not Jewish, but I love bagels, right?
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to figure out how to make a fucking bagel that doesn't fall the fuck apart when you're eating it, right? It's just simple things, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't use the easy spread cream cheese. You use the kind that comes in the pads and everything.
Yeah.
It's like mortar, like you build it,
Yeah.
right? And you toast it quite a bit, so it's like there's a lot of things like the way you put
There's
it
an
together.
art to it.
Yeah, you use a paring knife and you the center hole and you cut out from the center, right? Let the knife do the work, gentlemen, right?
All right, got
And that's
you.
what you're gonna
Follow.
have. That's gonna be. I'm telling you, man. You're gonna get a solid, easy to eat bagel every time. You know, I can't like I got to the point where I go out with people and I can't
RuffHouse
eat a bagel.
bagels.
I can't eat a bagel when I'm sitting with people because I know it's gonna. You know, I'm afraid if they don't do it right, it's gonna fall all over the place. And you know, I just hate sloppy food. You know, but that's just me.
Favorite place on planet Earth?
Favorite place on planet Earth has to fall between Dublin and
Oh, wow.
Dublin's cool.
Dope.
Jamaica's cool. Favorite place, yeah, Goldeneye in Jamaica. Chris Blackwell, who's been my mentor in the music business for 30 years.
Same order.
Yeah.
Schoolie said Ireland
Schoolie.
was his favorite place too.
What's that?
And then he mentioned Jamaica.
Schoolie said Ireland was his favorite
Ireland?
place. Yeah,
Ireland.
That's what.
And then he mentioned Jamaica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
That's what I said. Same order.
Yeah,
That's
same
crazy.
order. Yeah,
That's
it.
crazy. You know, when we did the first hip hop tour of Europe, and we went to Scotland and Ireland and Great Britain, and it was really some of these gigs were fucked up. I mean, because people had never seen a DJ and rapper. Like you'd have like, with Big Audio Dynamite, you'd have like 1,500 people at the show, and maybe 4 of them were there. Clash, man, we were getting bottles and cans thrown at us at the hotel too. But like Scotland was fucked up.
And that became and Ireland became your favorite.
Ireland, yeah, because a friend of mine was friends with the people from Principal Management that manage U2 and Sinead O'Connor and all that shit. And Ireland, first off, they love Americans in Ireland, right? They always have because we have presidents who are Irish descendants, right? Presidents, The other thing is that like their money doesn't have politicians and royalty on it. It has artists on their money.
Oh wow,
That's different.
And Ireland is a country. Their 2 biggest products for export are Guinness beer and U2. So when you think about it, a country whose biggest exports are a rock band and beer.
Yeah.
You can't
Can't go against it.
Yeah. So it's cool.
Okay.
And they're just super friendly. They're just cool people.
We're gonna have to try and go to Ireland.
Yeah.
Next trip.
Next
Yeah.
trip, right?
Go to Dublin. Stay at the Shelburne Hotel. That's where the treaty was signed.
Okay. There it is.
Yeah.
There you have
Chris,
it.
we'd like to thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Guys, thank
This
you
was
very
The
much.
legend Chris
The
Schwartz
dopest,
is on
Mr.
our
Chris
show.
Schwartz.
Yeah.
He's responsible for so much. I want to say, '90s hip hop was all you, Chris. Like,
Yeah. A little bit of it.
like 90% of what happened in the '90s was because of Chris Schwartz.
He had his hand in
And
it.
it's an honor that you came on our show, and I appreciate it so much.
And I'm glad you guys came down to the place,
Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah.
This is really awesome. Okay, so everybody viewing, we'd like to thank you for tuning in, and until next time,
Bong.
Hold that.